Good afternoon. We could call this session to order. And if the council could turn to page 4, Bill 65-17. I see Mr. Keith Dorsey in the audience. Good afternoon, Mr. Dorsey.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chairman and members of the County Council. Bill 6517 is a request for approval of a bond ordinance in which the county would go to sale for $600 million in bonds. That's would be $250 million in terms of our consolidated public improvement program, and then another $350 for the Metropolitan District. There would also be a request for approval of bans. The bonds would be used to take out the bans that were issued last year. We're also requesting $600 million. Much of that new money that would go to another $250 million for the CPI program, and another $350 for Metropolitan District. There's also request in the ordinance to allow for us to, if necessary, to go refund any outstanding bond issuances. So if there's an opportunity to reduce the cost and reissue those bonds. It also touches on the program we've had for a while in terms of the installment purchase agreement for those who are agricultural property owners. And then it also identifies that our continued use of the Maryland Water Quality Financing Administration Program, which allows us to secure some of these bonds at a much lower price. And that is our request. It goes to support for instance, on the CPI side, the Consolidated Public Improvement, $153 million for schools, $60 for public works projects. Those are roads and bridges, sidewalks, like $10 million for community and economic development, and sort of others in terms of community college at 7 and all the way down to parks and recreation at 2. That's a total of $250 million. And then, as I said, $350 for the Metropolitan District.
Questions or comments for Mr. Dorsey? Councilwoman.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Mr. Dorsey, what makes this a good time to do this?
Okay. In terms of this is being approved now, but we are likely to go to sale at the end of February or early March. At that time, we have to at least go to sale enough in terms of the bonds to take out the bans that were issued last year. They have to be paid off by roughly around March 16th. So that's the timing that we're working within, that year from when they were sold. We have to take them out, and that's the schedule for it.
Thank you.
Mr. Dorsey, I know we've been having conversations about the Prague report, and I understand that that was being relooked at and was supposed to be sent to the County Council. Can you let us know what's going on with the Prague report?
It should be here and available to you beginning of next week.
Before the vote?
Can't say for certain, but we would hope that it's here. Monday or Tuesday. I can't say for certain when it will get here.
I would say respectfully, I think the County Council talked about this at length during lunch today. And before we vote on this bond ordinance, I think there's a clear consensus among myself and the members that we'd like to see the Prague report before we obviously vote on the bond ordinance.
Okay.
Other questions or comments? Councilman Catch?
Yes. I taken another look at the Prague reports, and the last one is dated December of 2015. So a lot has changed in that period of time. So just to echo what the chairman said, we can't really vote on this unless we have an idea of the fiscal situation in the future. It's just not realistic. I mean, we're talking about, what, a year and a half, year and 3/4 have passed since the last report. So we look forward to receiving a copy of it.
Okay.
Councilman Marks?
Thank you. I usually go to Ms. Morrison, who's very helpful on a lot of issues, but since you're here, the lighting at the Drumcastle Garage keeps going off, on and off, and on during very bad nighttime hours. Can you talk to Mr. Klunk about making sure that that lighting is not going on and disturbing the neighbors? Thank you very much.
Other questions or comments? I think, first of all, I did want to recognize the work that the county executive, the administration is doing with our schools. I mean, I know that the county, for example, has already forward funded over $100 million basically for the state's obligation that is basically due back to us. And I think in the next fiscal year, that number is going to go up to about $170 million.
Around 230 million.
230 million now.
Yes.
Okay, so I think it's important for everybody to understand is the county is going so all in on schools that not only are we paying what's our fair share to fix these schools, the air conditioning, the aging infrastructure, the overcrowding, but in addition to that, we're not just paying what our obligation is, we're actually forward funding in the amount of over 230 million, did you say?
Yes.
In state money that we're hoping to get back from them. How long do you think it might take them to actually pay us back that 230-some million?
It will certainly depend on whether the state changes its formula. Right now, the state only provides us about $40 million a year. So as you can see, even if there are no additional needs for the county in terms of the capital regarding schools, that would take us 6 years just to get the amount back if they don't increase the amount of funding.
Can say, for example, just a state official, for example, not picking on anyone, but let's just say a state elected official says, hey, I want to build a brand new high school in XYZ area of Baltimore County. Can they earmark part of that $40 million specifically to one school alone, or do they have to give it just generally?
Well, in terms of the state review board would, designate what projects are there, and yes, the Board of Public Works has at times tried to make certain designations, but understand this: when I describe this $230 million, that's before a new high school. A new high school costs $125 million. And so if we're paying the full share of it with the state not advancing any of it, then if you're talking about one, that's an additional $125 million. If you're talking about two, you're talking about an additional $250 million.
Mm-hmm.
So you're talking about a need for the state to really pick up its share and fulfill its obligations.
Mm-hmm. And Mr. Dorsey, of the $153 million that we have in the CPI, can you get us a breakdown of where that money's going, what schools, how that's being distributed? Is that possible?
Yes, we'll try to get you a breakdown of it. It's 4 projects that are, that have already gotten underway, and so we'll get you a breakdown.
So most of it's projects looking backward?
Well, in terms of it was projects that would have been authorized in a previous referendum.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just that at this point in time, that's when we need the funds available. I think that there was a page in the package that was prepared for this meeting where it shows the amount for different categories, how much has already been paid, how much this will meet in terms of the payment for this bond sale and the total amount due. To some extent, those are in larger categories. So I think what you're asking me is for something broken down a little further than what's identified in the book right now.
Yes, if I could get that, I'd be very, very grateful for that. Question on spending affordability. You know, it's obviously, it's a pretty big bond ordinance. How's that affecting our overall guidelines, including debt service?
We are going to remain within the overall guidance for now. In the out years, it'll become tougher. It will be where we're hitting closer to that ceiling. Inevitably, that's going to be there, but we're trying to maintain that we stay within the overall ceilings for debt service as we on the operating budget side as well.
And Mr. Dorsey, what would you say on an average fiscal year? Like, because we're doing so much with air conditioning right now, we're doing so much fixing our aging infrastructure, so much to fix the overcrowding in our schools. What would you say on an average fiscal year that Baltimore County is contributing toward really fixing our schools and getting them up in the condition we all want them?
Well, in terms of right now, it's in terms of full cost of those projects, it's running for us about almost $100 million in terms of the cost for putting it in. Whether you're talking about the funds coming in through bond sales, bond funding, or whether it's through the PAYGO funding, we're hitting $100 million plus a year in terms of that, especially if we're talking about then coming back and paying the state share of any of those projects.
So every single fiscal year, we're spending at least $100 million, whether it's PAYGO or whether it's through bonds, on our schools around the entire county.
During this current period of time, during this accelerated Schools for Our Future program, we're at that level of spending or more.
So in other words, if we want to build a brand new high school that costs $120 million, that cost of one high school would be more than what we're spending for the entire school capital program in one fiscal year. Is that right?
Yeah, if we were actually going to pay it all at one time, it would be more than what we're paying out right now. Well, a lot of times, some of those payments are spread over. We have to allot the money, but it's maybe spread over 2 years for it to actually get constructed. But we borrow in terms of the bonds as we need the funds. So if it was $120 million school, but it's going to take 2 years to build, whatever, 3 years to build, we would only go to actually borrow the money as we need it, even though we have to sort of designate that's how much we need in total when we start the project.
So obviously, we're breaking it down and paying it for it in installments, but it's based on how long it takes the project to be built?
Yeah, in terms of how much we actually go to the market and borrow. We wouldn't borrow the whole 120 at one time. We would borrow whatever we need to keep pace with the actual construction schedule.
And what happens, for example, this forward funding, I think is very significant. The county, because we really are trying to fix these problems in Baltimore County Public Schools, are forward funding a lot of state money, $230 million, come this next fiscal year or the fiscal year we're in?
Now, in terms of right now, there was, we started the year at somewhere around just under $170 million. Then the state put in its share that it provided to the county in terms of its contribution that I think was between $40 and $50 million. That took it down to like 120. And I'm saying that next year, in line with the things that are in the capital budget for what we need and the assumption about what, it's included in the school board's request to the state for this coming year, that would add the portion that we're going to have to pick up for the state is about another $110 million. That's why I'm saying it's going to take it up to $230-some million.
But there's no obligation that the state has to pay this back?
There is no absolute obligation.
But generally, for every dollar that's put into schools, 65 cents is from the county, 35 cents from the state?
Right, for different groupings of type of construction, yes, it's a 2-to-1 ratio.
But by law, I think, can't the state, if they wanted to, contribute up to 56 cents on the dollar? If they wanted, the maximum the state could put in if they just really wanted to, couldn't they do up to 56 cents on the dollar?
Depending on the type of construction, in terms of the where it's actual construction versus the preliminary work, where you're talking about the architectural work, the preparation. Those initial parts are paid 100% by the local government. The state picks up its participation in the actual construction side of it.
But they could go higher than the 30-some cents they're doing per dollar.
Well, that 30-some cents per dollar is an overall amount.
Mhm.
But yes, they could go higher than what they are currently doing.
Okay, other questions? I mean, this is a big bond ordinance. Does anybody else have any questions, Councilman?
Yes. First of all, the $230 million that the county is forward funding, of course, is eligible for reimbursement by the state. I would not think that the county would embark on forward funding unless it was reimbursable. Would that be a true statement?
Yes, it's reimbursable. It's the question of when we will get reimbursed.
Right. Now, the county council met with the House delegation, I guess it's about a month ago, something like that. And I brought this subject up, and I know I keep talking about this. My last term in the state legislature, it was determined that Baltimore City had the oldest inventory of schools in the state of Maryland, and because of that, the state passed, the legislature passed, it was enacted into law, $1.1 billion additional building program for Baltimore City. And I asked the chairman, Delegate Lafferty, to please, let's take a look at this. Why, since we have the second oldest inventory of schools in the state of Maryland, why isn't it a situation where, why shouldn't we qualify for some additional aid? The numbers you talk about, the amount appropriated to the county, et cetera, they're all formula driven. And I think that the formula used on the state level does not represent our situation in Baltimore County, just like it didn't represent the situation in Baltimore City. So I see we have Delegate Chris West here today, and I'm hoping, and we also have Sam and Ethan here from who lobby for the county and Annette.
Scott Schellenberger's here.
Oh, okay. Are you lobbying for the county too?
No. Just if we're recognizing
Okay.
people, we got. Yeah.
Okay. And we have the fire chief. Do you lobby in Annapolis for money? No. Oh, okay. But anyhow, I would like to see this administration, with the cooperation of the House and Senate delegation in Annapolis, be advocates for reasonable funding for our Baltimore County public schools, considering the fact that we have the second oldest inventory of schools in the state of Maryland. And the time has come to do that. Here we are, forward funding $230 million. And I say it's because of a faulty formula. Thank you very much.
And Councilman Couch, I do want to agree with you here, because I think if you have a state leader going around saying, the county doesn't care, that's why there's no new high schools, for example, being built. But if this state leader is coming to the table with $40 million for the whole entire county, and one brand new high school costs $120 million, well, yeah, I do find that a little bit disingenuous. So I did want to state that for the record. Mr. Dorsey, do you have any figures on this bond ordinance and how it's going to affect our overall debt service payments?
Well, this particular one, I think, in terms of the particular sale, we're talking about the cost of debt service cost. The first year out is $7 million in terms of debt service. Overall, it's a total of it would be $173 million in terms of total increase of debt service over a period of 20 years.
173 million net of total debt that we're servicing?
Over 20 years, yes.
And so per year, is that like, what, 20-some million in debt
No,
service?
no,
or
in terms of it, it would start off at $7 million in the first year. It would then peak at $12,700,000 in year 2, and then gradually decline from there.
Okay, so the net debt service, did you say is 12 million at the peak?
I said in year 2,
Mm-hmm.
okay, year 1 being FY20 would be $7 million. Year 2, FY21, it would be $12,700,000. That would be the expected debt service on the issuance, CPI issuance that we're requesting right now.
That's the peak, and then it declines
And then
over the
it
next
declines.
18?
Correct.
Okay, other questions from Councilman Marks?
Mr. Dorsey, to what extent are we looking at the cost it requires to build these new schools? It seems like other jurisdictions are building schools at a less expensive rate than we are. For example, Howard County is replacing Wild Lake Middle School, and it's costing $36 million. Harford County is trying to do a new Havre de Grace High School at a cost of $99 million, which seems less than what we're budgeting. Have we looked at the cost to build these new facilities?
Yeah, we work regularly with with the school board, the school systems capital team to look at more efficient buildings. That we're looking at other jurisdictions and seeing what they're building the schools for, and challenging the school system to come in at those similar levels. Of course, in any school, you'll have the variation of the landscape and how much it costs to do that. And when you're comparing with other jurisdictions, make sure that that is a part of the component, because sometimes we'll see these numbers coming from other jurisdictions. They didn't include all of the costs. But you're correct. There are some opportunities that we believe that couldn't be there in terms of reducing and containing this cost of these new constructions by using other already explored designs. That's one of the things we've tried to see if we could get the state to work toward in terms of helping to see for all of the county jurisdictions that if a school designed a school for 700 in Anne Arundel County, why can't we be able to secure the design cost cheaper in any of the other counties around the state? So if you need a 700-seat school, with some modifications, we should be able to start there.
Right.
But that's been an ongoing effort we've been making for quite some time. But it's one that I think even the commission at the state is addressing and talking about those kinds of things, about how you can save costs if there was greater elimination of some walls that are out there.
Good question. Other questions or comments from the council? Everybody good? All righty. Thank you, Mr. Dorsey.
Thank you.
Look forward to the Prague report. I appreciate that. If we could next call up Mr. Carl Price, our chief of the fire department, and the council, page 1, Bill 64-17.
Good afternoon, council members. Bill 64-17, I apologize for my voice, by the way. Bill 64-17 is for supplemental appropriation that we're requesting of federal funds totaling $589,048 for the FEMA Fire Prevention and Safety Smoke Detectors Gifts and Grants Fund program. The funds will be used to purchase 20,000 combination smoke and carbon monoxide detectors over 2 years. The county's contribution Our part is 5% or $29,452. What's included are multilingual public safety materials, all installation equipment, backpacks for storage of detectors, et cetera. Our personnel will be doing all of the installation of these detectors. We estimate for ongoing cost past the period of performance for this grant that the cost will be approximately $30,000 to $40,000 to continue to support the project beyond 2019. And it's very important that we continue to do that, in our opinion. And that's about 1,000 to 1,500 units per year. Data collection is difficult due to destruction of smoke detectors during a fire, but it is estimated that in 2016, smoke and heat detectors successfully alerted residents in less than 25% of home fires. All county residents will be eligible to receive these detectors. However, we will be targeting areas with higher concentrations of poverty. If you take a look, I think Tom handed out some maps. I just had put up some heat maps so you can see your individual councilmatic districts, and you can see the legend at the top referring to the fires and then also referring to the incidence of carbon monoxide. And there's different color coding on there too, but it affects every one of the 7 councilmatic districts. This is very, very important, very, very important for us to get these detectors out. Studies do suggest that low-income families are more likely to be impacted and injured as a result of a fire. And last year, the department responded to over 250 calls to residences with excessive levels of carbon monoxide. And annually, there's an average of 430 deaths due to carbon monoxide poisoning in the United States. And carbon monoxide is one of those, it's a silent and deadly killer. You can't smell that. You need a detector or two to be able to detect that. And this is very important. We appreciate your consideration.
Thank you, Chief. Any questions or comments for the Chief? Councilwoman?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'm sorry, I missed it. Did you say these would be for all Baltimore County residents?
Yes, ma'am.
Not in
All Baltimore County residents will be targeting specifically the areas of, lower income or higher levels of call volume and places where we respond to, where there's more fires or more carbon monoxide alerts, but all county residents will be eligible for this. Yes, ma'am.
Thank you.
Councilman Crandall?
Sure. Thank you, Mr. Chair. Chief, thank you. In looking at the data map that you provided, it's pretty evident that our constituency in the 7th District needs some help.
Yes, sir.
So I appreciate you and your department's work on this. And also, I just wanted to publicly thank Mark Hubbard, who's Baltimore County Emergency Management Director. We went through a situation that I've talked about in work session and at legislative session where we had a water main break that ruptured a sewer line and caused some water outage for some of our constituents for an extended period of time. And Mark was extremely responsive, helped me out on numerous occasions, actually had coordinated with the Red Cross to bring water in, and then also had folks from the Department of Health and some of your people open up Station 6 so we could, and we had some volunteers, really heartening thing, we had some volunteers from the neighborhood come and fill their vehicles up with water to distribute it out into the neighborhood, which was great as well. And Mark's only hindrance in this whole thing, as you know, was the city's complete ineptitude to communicate with us what was going on and the time frames that we had to deal with this. And I know that Mark has been charged with working with the city to see if that communication mechanism through protocols or whatever could be improved, because it really hindered when you get confusing and conflicting information from various people in a certain department. It's very difficult to make the right decisions in a timely manner. And so Mark was great, but he had to work with the information that he was given, and the trying times that we had over that period. But I do want to thank Mark for his efforts, if you can pass that along.
Will do. Councilman, I'll point out the two of the personnel that I have here today. Assistant Chief Paul Lurs, who is also the Deputy Director of Emergency Management for the county, worked very, very hard
Yes,
through those days, and I know you know Paul very well. And Battalion Chief Dave Bykoff, also one of his ancillary duties is with emergency management for us. So really need to thank those two gentlemen for their work.
I want to thank Chief Bykoff. I ran into him in the neighborhood in which this was occurring, and he was personally checking on the senior housing that was affected by this. Went into the building, talked to people, make sure that they were okay. So thank you, Chief, for your effort that day.
Other questions or comments? One thing, Chief, just while I have you here, unrelated issue. You had some reports, and you never know kind of what the truth is, and so it's always good to go right to the top.
Sure.
Fire down in Lansdowne.
Yes, sir.
People said Station 4 was the first to get there to the fire. Is that true?
I'm not exactly sure what the first unit was to arrive.
Okay, because I'm still getting from just everyday firefighters telling me the concern about possible ghost engine. You know, we've talked about it, but
We have.
we're so lucky to have Councilman Jones here, so I just asked Councilman Jones to talk to you because logistically, you guys know a lot more about this than I, but it is just something that, I'm still hearing some just everyday people right on the front lines worried about, do we have enough engines out there all the time?
It's something that we continually evaluate. I thank you for your time when we met a few months ago
Yeah.
to talk about that particular thing, and it's, I am thankful that you're coming to me for the source instead of the,
That's right.
as
I'll always go
Councilman
right
Jones
to the.
and I know, the rumor mill in the fire department
Yep.
can sometimes take over. I will tell, I think that Councilman Quirk, that I've been working very hard with the folks involved with the volunteer segment in your area with Lansdowne. I was just down there last week. We're moving forward. They've, Violetville and Lansdowne have consolidated into the Lansdowne Volunteers. We're, working with them to move forward to build a new station. And we're also at the same time working with English Council to see, because they're all in the same zip code area. And for where the new station's going to be built on Hollands Ferry Road, it's only 1.8 miles from English Council. So we're kind of revisiting some issues with them to see about some, potential mergers, because that's a place that the infrastructure needs a lot of work. But I'd be hard pressed to support additional infrastructure for another volunteer station that's only 1.8 miles from someplace where we're building a, $3.2 to $3.4 million fire station. But I think the addition of that new station will help the volunteer segment in that area. But as I explained when we met a few months ago, that I'll, continually look and evaluate our need, and if we do need to augment our career services, we'll be putting some things together to add that into our budget.
I appreciate it, Chief. I appreciate the work that you all do every single day, keep our citizens safe, so thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks so much.
Thank you.
All righty. Let's see. Why don't we turn to page 17? We'll call Andrew Van Arsdale, Director, Department of Planning, page 17. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon. The Baltimore County Department of Planning requests approval of a contract between Baltimore County and PPS Contractors to elevate a house at 838 Seneca Park Road in Bowley's Quarters. As you may recall, I brought this last work session, and warned that we were still working with the property owner on trying to meet some new FEMA requirements. We withdrew it. They have worked with their contractor and are now going to raise the house in place and reinforce it with basically an apron, a metal apron, to deal with the limited wave action that is now required of FEMA that we had not known before. So it had changed the overall cost from $134,900 to $174,000. FEMA will pay the 75%, so that's $130,000. $130,500, and then the property owner will pay the 25%, which is $43,500.
Questions or comments from Ms. Van Arsdale?
I have a question.
Councilwoman?
Ms. Van Arsdale. I'm happy to hear that another residence is being raised on the waterfront. The 25% that the homeowner is responsible for, are they paying that outright, or is there funding within the county for them to?
That's on their dime.
Pardon me?
That is their dime.
That is totally their dime. Okay,
Yes.
thank you.
Other questions or comments? Easy
Thank you.
enough. Thank you, Ms. Van Arsdale.
Thank you.
All right, we're going to skip around a little bit. Why don't we turn to page 16, Bill 68-17. Council members Marks and Bevins. Councilman Marks.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. In January 2016, the Baltimore County Council passed legislation designed to curb unruly gatherings or wild parties in Towson. I think this has been a very important piece of legislation. I think it's an important tool as we work to improve peace of mind in Towson. Essentially, this is what this bill does. On first violation, landlords receive a written warning. On second, they're hit with an automatic fine of $500. And if the problems persist, they risk the loss of their rental license. University officials who received 36 complaint calls from the public about loud parties during the first 2 months of the 2015-2016 academic year only received 9 last year, which is a decline of 75%. I believe, like I said, this is an effective tool. The current pilot program will expire shortly. What this legislation will do is extend the pilot program until 2022, and it will also say that the pilot program is contained within the boundaries of the Towson precinct, which makes it easier for our police officers to enforce. And of course, we're still keeping the Arbutus area within the legislation. So again, I'd like to thank you for your previous support of this legislation and look forward to the enactment of the reauthorization.
Councilwoman Bevins?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Yes, I was happy to co-sponsor this legislation with Councilman Marks. I worked with Councilman Marks last year to include Loch Raven Village and my Nettie Shaw communities to the pilot program, and I'm very happy that the new boundaries will now include 3 more communities in my district, which is Hillendale, Lock Hill, and Glendale, Glenmont. So this is good bipartisan legislation. Councilman Marks.
Thank you.
Other questions or comments? I did want to add myself as a co-sponsor. This unruly social gatherings is an effective tool. I mean, the communities like it, gives the police an additional weapon almost to really fight against people maybe having unruly social gatherings. And UMBC supports this as well. I mean, they definitely have found this to be helpful for the communities. And so, yeah, this is definitely a bill that's working out there. And we're getting, I think, support and interest from the landlords as well. So I do appreciate the work Councilman Marks has done, as well as Councilwoman Bevins, and happy to co-sponsor. Any other questions or comments from the council? We do have 4 public speakers on this. Everybody good? All right, so let's call up our public speakers. Each speaker has up to 3 minutes to speak. And we do have the honor to have our state's attorney, Scott Schellenberger, going first. And good afternoon.
So now you turn the timer on.
It's been more than
We'll ask you questions if you need.
Be fine. Thank you so much for having me today. Glad to see all of you. This is a bill that's been working. Just a few numbers that I brought with me. Since the pilot was launched, we have charged 27 individuals. Unlike some of the other things that we do with some of the young people in our neighborhoods, we're not diverting any of these cases. We are making them come to court. Of the 27, we've already had 13 found guilty. There are 12 cases pending. 2 of the cases we had to dismiss because they didn't quite come under the statute. One of them, there were only 3 or 4 people there, and we needed a few more than that. But apparently those 3 or 4 made quite a bit of noise. So, I do sit on a underage drinking panel group where we combat underage drinking. I sit with many members of Towson University on that panel. Towson University believes that this bill is working. They've, as you heard from Councilman Marks, have gotten a number of fewer phone calls from the neighborhoods since this bill went into effect. We do plan to continue taking these cases to court. The fines have been ranging anywhere from $40, but there was one that was, over $135. It's really up to the individual judge. I can give you all a list of the addresses if you ever need them. I can certainly send you by email. One of the things that makes sense, and I didn't bring any copies, but we are changing the map from this rather lovely contraption that Mr. Fields' office had to draw to a very concise this, and that is the Towson precinct. And it's a precinct, obviously, that all the officers know exactly what the parameters are. They know where their post cars are and where everything is. So we'll make it a little bit easier. And we have found over the last couple of years that, the Towson University students who were living in a very concentric area of our neighborhoods seem to be expanding out a little bit. And so it certainly makes sense that we're doing this. Towson University tells me at our meetings that there's quite a bit of buzz amongst the students about this statute, and they do seem very concerned about it. And just the fact that they have to come to court, pay a fine, even if it's only $40, I think is definitely having an impact. And certainly I would ask that you reauthorize the bill.
Great. Thank you.
Thank you very much for your leadership on this, Scott.
I appreciate it. Thank you. Thank you for coming in today. Councilman Jones?
Yes, Mr. Schellenberg. I did have
Not
one
too
question.
soon.
One quick question.
You're being pulled back in.
I was
Is it shorty?
I was curious, what was the number of cases you had, and how does that correspond with Councilman Marks stating that we only had 9 complaints?
Well, so I had 27 cases charged.
Okay.
We've had 13 guilty findings and 12 pending. The difference are the apples and oranges. Councilman Mark's number of 9 is the number of citizens who called Towson University complaining. My numbers are the police who arrive and give a citation. And so there are many people who won't bother to call the university the next day. They'll just call the police, which is what we want them to do. You know, it's a civil citation. It's not going to ruin any of these kids' lives. Doesn't even, you know, show up on any kind of record or anything like that. So those individuals have been calling the police so that they can immediately issue a citation. When you call the university, they have to figure out who's living there. Then they have to call them into judicial affairs. And by that point, you know, you don't have any real witnesses. That's why it's important for the police to show up, be at the scene, witness how many people are there, frankly, do a very easy thing, and that is stand outside and hear how far away you can hear the noise. And they're the ones that offer the best evidence.
Okay. All right, thank you.
Any other questions for State's Attorney Schellenberger? All righty.
Thank you so
Thank
much.
you. Appreciate you coming in. Appreciate your work. Our next speaker is Dave Riley, followed by Paul Hartman. Good afternoon, Mr. Riley.
How you doing there, sir? My name's Dave Rowley. I'm the president of the Knollwood Association. I represent almost 400 homes in East Towson. I'd just like to say that the social host ordinance is probably the most effective legislation that will stabilize and improve East Towson communities. I think Towson University's done a great job of being a partner for student behavior. My concern is for landlords that see our community more as an investment and not a place for working families. So this has really given us a tool that stabilizes East Towson, because as you know, Towson is undergoing a great economic renaissance, which is good, but the ability to maintain that is the stability of the neighborhoods themselves that surround downtown Towson. East Towson has took the brunt of the expansion 20 years ago, and this tool has really brought balance back into our community. For example, there was a problem house in my community. I went and talked to the landlord, let him know that I knew about social host ordinance and that we intended to pursue it. And a for sale sign came up on the property about 3 weeks later, and that house is now owned by a young couple, which has stabilized that block. Okay, that's just one particular instance. So again, with 1.5 minutes left, I can just say that this is the most effective piece of legislation that the county could have given us to stabilize East Towson. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Riley.
Thank you, David.
The next speaker is Mr. Paul Hartman, and then followed by Tracy Marcantoni. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chair and council members. I'm Paul Hartman, and today I'm representing Greater Towson Council of Community Associations, the umbrella group, and also my community of Agworth Manor Association. Conveniently, both organizations have the same position on this issue. It would be kind of awkward if they didn't. But we support this bill. We have found it to be very effective in cutting down on the nuisance complaints. The quality of life has improved because of the reduction in the number of loud parties. Just from personal experience, I moved into Towson in 1988, and it took 8 years to deal with a fraternity house that was 2 doors from my house. And so I know what it's like at 10 or 11 o'clock when a 5-year-old daughter comes downstairs and I can't sleep because of all this noise, 2 houses away. So it really disrupts the family. It disrupts the enjoyment of your property, and this bill has done a great job at reducing the noise that we have. And expanding the geographic area, I think, is a really great idea. We've had several expansions already in the past that we thank you for voting for that. But rather than just have all this piecemeal little areas, it just makes sense to make it all of the Towson precinct. And then there's no question the officers know where they are, and they know whether they can write a citation or not. There are some other communities that wanted to be part of this area, and rather than just chisel them out and make them a new part of it, it just makes sense to expand the area as it is. So again, thank you for voting for this in the past, and we hope that you will vote for it now.
Thank you.
Paul's modest. You were very much a key part of getting this originally enacted, and I want to thank you for that.
Thank you.
Yep.
Thank you, Mr. Hartman. And our last speaker on Bill 68-17 is Tracy Marcantoni. And good afternoon.
Good afternoon. I'm Tracy Marcantoni. I'm speaking on behalf of the Berkeley Square Community Association. We fully support the social host ordinance and request that it become a permanent fixture in our county law. It has been an outstanding tool to combat and decrease the parties that once plagued our neighborhood during the college school year. Attached, you will read letters from neighbors that have described life before the SHO and compared it to life after. Please take this into consideration as you make your decision. Holding students and landlords accountable for their actions has made a difference in the quality of life of our permanent residents. Thank you for supporting this valuable legislation. I wanted to take an opportunity to read the personal letter that I included in the packet, which you'll all be getting copies of. I am writing to support the social host ordinance and request that you make it a permanent law in our county. The pilot program has shown to be effective in our neighborhood, even though when looking at the number of SHOs issued, our neighborhood is at the top of the leaderboard with the number of citations administered. We have seen a decrease in the parties and unruly gatherings. My family and I have lived in Berkeley Square for 23 years. We have witnessed far too many unruly gatherings hosted by college students. We have witnessed male neighbors peeing off their roof right outside my daughter's bedroom window, females pulling their pants down right outside our front door to urinate on our lawn, tampons left on our lawn, condoms hanging in trees, loud music playing so my young children were awakened, cussing outside, sexual encounters right outside of our windows, drinking games, vomiting, disrespectful and vulgar encounters with partygoers, drunk driving, the list goes on and on. It has definitely been a quality of life issue for us. It is also dangerous for those indulging in the behaviors. The past year and a half has been quite different, thank goodness. We have a fabulous, useful tool to stop the madness listed above. Thank you. Please continue the social host ordinance so that we can call if need be and the officers can issue citations when necessary. Students and landlords need to be held accountable for their actions. My family and I appreciate this ordinance and the value it brings to our community. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Tracy.
All righty. Moving on, why don't we, council, turn to page 24. If we could call Mr. Will Anderson, Director, Department of Economic and Workforce Development. Page 24, Fiscal Matter 3. Good afternoon, Mr. Anderson.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chairman, members of the council. The contract we're bringing before you is with KRA. Earlier this year, under our Workforce Innovation Act, we were required to procure new services called One Stop Operator. This is a service that is delivered at our 3 American Job Centers and at our mobile career unit. And the basic intent of this service is to pull all the different agencies that are serving people for whether they're looking for a new job or businesses that are looking to hire people, to coordinate those services across county, state, and other agencies that are working inside our facilities. So as of July, we were required to do this under the law with no new money. So we set aside $100,000 to do this service. And KRA won a competitive bid, and they've been in place now for several months and are doing a great job, and that's the nature of this contract.
Questions or comments from Mr. Anderson?
Yeah.
Councilman Koch?
Yes. Will, I just want your opinion on something. Our auditor, I don't remember the name of the particular group, but you sent us a briefing of the future of the county, our finances, and one of the conclusions, I think it was from Mike Galeazzo, was that our workforce is, yeah, right, okay. He mentioned that our workforce is not ready for the upcoming century or times, whatever. And I just would like to have your opinion about our workforce in Baltimore County. In particular, what kind of training do we need for the future jobs that we hope to attract in Baltimore County? Take a look at Trade Point and other areas where we're trying to expand.
Yeah.
What do we need, and are we working with the school system? Thank you.
That's a great question. I don't know the specifics of what Mike Galeazzo's comment was. Mike's been working on the changing nature of manufacturing for decades and those skill sets that have changed. But it's a really good point, because if you go into our schools, you'll see students working in maker spaces and doing additive manufacturing, building things up from a digital footprint. Very different than how we've manufactured things for the past 100 years in the country. And Mike's group, RMI, has looked at that change. You see that change happening across our community college, which is one of the reasons why our community college is recognized as the workforce engine in the region, because manufacturing training changes are taking place there. So it's something that we're working on at our Workforce Development Board. We bring in those manufacturers on our board to make sure that our training providers are lined up with what they need. And it is a rapidly moving target, because as things change into robotics, now you have to train people on operating robotics and or building and maintaining them, which is a very sophisticated skill set. So it is a moving dynamic, and manufacturing is still a good chunk of our economy in the county, and as the largest job center in the region, it's an important piece of it. I'd have to look at the report to kind of get into a specific for you, but I'm happy to do so.
Questions or comments from the council? Councilman Crandall.
Sure. Thank you, Mr. Chair. Will, I know that you and I have had numerous discussions in terms of workforce, and of course, because of what's going on in my district with Trade Point. And one of the things that has become evident, I know that Mr. Galeazzo has a focus on manufacturing and has, as you said, for decades. But for some reason in our society, we have somehow said that if you work with your hands, you're a second-class citizen. So I'm talking about the trades. Mm-hmm. And through my discussions with you and various other people, we have numerous job openings for very well-paying jobs. And for whatever reason, we've taken the word vocational out of our school system. And it's a mistake. I mean, and me being a Dundalk boy, those trades are dear to my heart. That's what kept us going for so many years. And when we're looking at opportunities such as the wind turbine project potentially at Trade Point, depending on how things work out, we're going to need hundreds of welders. We don't have hundreds of welders that are ready to go. So that's the type of preparation, along with the high-tech stuff, the high-tech assembly, additive manufacturing. encouraging young people that have an aptitude to be an electrician, to be a plumber. Those are places where people can make a really good living. I know someone that has a master's degree, is in college debt, makes about $80,000 a year. His brother is a plumber. He makes $175,000 a year. So I think that we can do a better job in terms of encouraging our young people that the trades are a great place for them to be for a lifetime of employment.
Agreed. You know, my dad came up in the trades. When I was a kid, I remember how few people understood just what great careers there were, and you were being paid as an apprentice, so you were being paid to learn. And I think that you're seeing a resurgence in apprenticeships now. It's in the skilled trades, and they're coming back. We're down talking to the operating engineers about, are they ready for if the offshore wind project comes, which is fantastic, across the board, what they need for construction. They're getting ready on the construction side, but now you see it moving into other spaces, the apprenticeship model in health and IT as well, because they know getting somebody right out of high school, whether they're going right into a trade or they're going into a hospital, you need that hands-on of the sort of master apprentice. So I think there's a resurgence of it, and clearly we need it not just at Trade Point, but throughout the county. All the trades, if you meet with electricians, they're all looking for people to come in, and they are tremendous career fields. So I think I hear CTE spoken of highly at our school system, and the city is doing it as well. So there is a bit of a resurgence around the trades.
Thank you. Yep, and I
Thanks.
appreciate your work on that. I know I didn't mean to infer that you weren't conscious of that, or that our school system wasn't.
Yep.
I know that you are. I just think the past sort of shows this history, again, taking the word vocational out of our school system, as if having a vocation is a bad thing.
It's a bad thing, exactly.
Right.
No, I'm in agreement with you.
Yeah, and I
Thank
just
you.
wanted to echo those comments. You know, with the trades, I mean, my dad's a retired diesel mechanic. My brother actually has a pretty decent plumbing company. My godson is a welder. And I'll tell you, these guys are the ones that are, you know, keeping all my stuff going and fixed, and because I clearly couldn't do it.
You can't outsource your plumbing to China.
That's right. And you know what? That's the wonderful thing, not to digress or get on some other tangent, but, you know, 15, 20, 30 years ago, all we heard was offshoring, offshoring, offshoring. And now more and more we're hearing onshoring as the United States, because of our energy reserves and our natural gas, and we're becoming more competitive. And so I do think that this manufacturing, hopefully resurgence, is going to continue and provide lots of good jobs for people out there. And I do want to thank you for your work on that, Will. And I also want to just recognize you again for, you know, the tap room in Relay for Guinness is open, and it's a great place. And it's totally packed. It's a lot of fun. And then, of course, you know, recently with Councilman Crandall's district with Amazon, the distribution facility, $225 million or so. It's huge, huge. So thank you for your work. Thank Councilman Crandall. I mean, that's good stuff.
Thank you for catching that for me, Mr. Chair.
Yep, it's good stuff.
Yeah.
Any other questions or comments from the council for Mr. Anderson? All righty.
All right.
Thank you
Thanks,
so
Mr.
much.
Chairman.
Appreciate
Thanks.
it. All righty. Why don't we call up Major Dan Kolesiak? And if the council could turn to page 20, fiscal matter 2. Page 20, fiscal matter 2. And good afternoon, Major. It's good to see you.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chairman and council members. The contract agreement that's before you is with Delta Hotels, Baltimore, Hunt Valley. The scope of services are to provide hotel accommodations, facility rentals, and food and beverage for the annual hostage negotiation seminar. The agreement is awarded through a 902F justification. This hotel is the only hotel in Baltimore County that can handle the size conference that we host. The term is for 1 year with 4 additional one-year renewal options. The initial year, $89,462, with a total 5-year of $449,666.
Any questions for the Major? I would just say, please tell the chief we said hello, and we appreciate you coming in, and we look forward to seeing him again sometime in the chamber. Councilwoman Almond?
Yes, if I could, I just wanted to say thank you for keeping this in Baltimore County. It's a great program, great training. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Major.
Thank you.
Councilman Couch?
Yeah, when I read the fiscal note, are the participants paying anything ultimately?
Yes, there is a $195 registration fee for participants, and they pay for their hotel rooms for that, and obviously there's a few meals that are included, but they pay for a lot of their meals. They go to a lot of the restaurants in the area.
And so the $195 is not reimbursed by the county?
The $195 is paid through the Baltimore County Police Foundation. The county fronts the money, and then we get reimbursed.
Okay, so
that money to the county.
So you aren't paying for this train. In other words, you don't have to pay, the county or the taxpayers are paying for this training in essence?
No, the attendees do. We do have 75 participants usually from the county that go, but it's funded through the Baltimore County Police Foundation. So the money is refunded to the county, what's collected for that. So from what I can see, there's no liability to the county.
Thank you.
Any other questions, comments? Thank you. Appreciate you coming in. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. If the council could now turn to page 14, Bill 66-17, Councilwoman Bevins. Page 14.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Bill 6617, the Baltimore County 2020 Master Plan identified White Marsh as one of the largest job centers in the county. There are many new jobs in White Marsh thanks to Route 43 and the Campbell Boulevard and Campbell Boulevard extension. This bill would allow high-end residential uses within the White Marsh Town Center to support the job boom that is currently happening in White Marsh.
Questions or comments for Councilwoman Bevins? All righty. That was quick. Why don't we turn to page 15, Bill 67-17, Councilman Couch.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Council Bill 6717 is an attempt, and I think the possibility of this working is very high, to resolve a problem that's been going on for many, many years on Moncton Road near the hike bike trail and the water facilities that are right next to the hike bike trail. When the hike bike trail opened years ago, it drew people, and it's a very successful area for those who bike, those who want to tube. I mean, it is just a very successful endeavor. And the problem is, though, that when the state built the hike bike trail there and converted the old train station, adequate parking was never put in place. And because of that, the more that this area has become popular, people are scurrying all over the place trying to look for parking places. And because of that, we've had some pretty dangerous situations occurring with people parking on both sides of Moncton Road. It's become a bottleneck. It's unsafe. The police are called there periodically to try to resolve the problem. Over the years, we've tried various strategies. We've asked the state to put up Jersey barriers. We've asked all kinds of obstacles to be put along Moncton Road. And of course, the state has refused to do that. But one thing has happened, I guess it was about 2 years ago, the area became a towaway zone. And you would think that that would discourage people from parking there, but it has not discouraged them because, to be blunt about it, the county has not, the county police have not enforced the towaway zone. And the current fine, which is $50, is not adequate because you have situations where a car full of people, maybe 3, 4, 5 people, will show up to Tube or walk the hike bike trail, and they simply know they're going to get a ticket, so they just divide the $50 ticket 5 ways, 4 ways, and it just becomes part of the cost of a fun day. So the bill that you have in front of you would increase the parking fine to $135. Now, I do know that the bill is needs to be changed, so we're going to fine the car and not the person, because there's a letter from the Baltimore County Police which states that it would really be difficult to enforce this because they'd have to wait for the person to come back to give them the ticket. So we'll make that change. And the fine for parking in a handicap place is now $150, so we certainly didn't want to go above $150, so we settled on $135. What I would like to see happen is there are 2 churches that are within walking distance of this hub of the hike bike trail in Moncton. And both these churches have rather significant parking facilities. I would like to see the state of Maryland approach both churches and see if the state could lease that property, first to cover the expenses dealing with liability and of course the wear and tear on the parking lots. So I don't know if that is something possible, but I know that it's something that people do today, and many times they're chased off the lot because they're parking there. It's private parking. So I'd like to see some effort made by the state to approach these churches to try to resolve this problem, to accommodate these people that are using the hike bike trail and the water facilities. Now, the other problem, which people will describe in a few minutes, there's problems with alcohol and other activities that are going on there as well. I mean, it is a problem. And you will hear from constituents who live in the area who are very familiar with the problem. And so anyhow, Mr. Chair, I yield the floor to our witnesses.
Thank you, Councilman Catch. Before we get to our public speakers, are there any questions or comments from the council members for Councilman Catch? Seeing none, why don't we call our first speaker? I see State Delegate Chris West, if you'd like to come on up. And each public speaker has up to 3 minutes to speak. So great to see you, Delegate West. Appreciate you coming in.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Before I get going, there were comments earlier dealing with the fact that we had a meeting between legislators and the councilman. I want to say I found that extremely rewarding. The depressing thing was this was our first meeting, and I've been in office now for 3.5 years, and it was a shame that it took 3.5 years to have the meeting. I'm hopeful we can have another meeting like that prior to the beginning of the legislative session in January. Secondly, there was a mention of, I'm not sure how it came up, but legislative agenda. It's always been frustrating to me that in Baltimore County we have no legislative agenda. At least we have not for the last 3 years. Other counties, I know, it was Baltimore City and their effort, successful effort to get $1.2 billion for their schools. And the fact that our schools are the second oldest schools, we've got no money for our schools. That's because in Baltimore City they all work together and they got support from other parts of the state. In Baltimore County, we support the city in many of their efforts. We support Montgomery County, we support Prince George's County, but we have no legislative agenda of our own. It seems to me, in exchange for our support of their legislative agendas, we should get them to support a legislative agenda of our own. And I'm hopeful that at some point, the leadership of the county and the council and the state legislators from Baltimore County can put together a legislative agenda that we all can work shoulder to shoulder to support. Okay, turning to this bill. I had the occasion a couple of years ago to go and walk Moncton Road with Mr. Durkee, who's, I think, going to testify a little later. By the way, if you all have ever gone to a movie theater in Baltimore City, you probably went to a Durkee theater. Mr. Durkee is from that family. He lives right next to Moncton Road, and right next to his house, there are terrible parking problems, mostly on summer weekends, to an extent during the week, but especially on the weekends. There's signs that say no parking, and right under the sign, there are cars parked. It's that bad. So I totally support the idea of a $135 fine. If the signs would say no parking, $135 fine, to let people know what they're getting into, my guess is very few cars would park, and once they'd receive the first $135 fine, they won't park there again. But a broader problem is that the county, it's a wonderful amenity we have out there. We have the bike trail, we have the river, where people, tubing, kayaking, canoeing, rafting. There just is not enough place to park. Now, I think Wade came up with a good idea about leasing church parking lots, but the county needs to take a look at this and find some, if we're going to want people to use the amenity, which we do, there has to be a place for them to park, because very few people live within walking distance of the amenity. People are coming from all over the county to go there and to use it. We have to find a place for them to park. Not on Moncton Road, though. Thank you.
Thank you, Delegate West. I did want to thank you for your comments. I, too, along with the council members, really did appreciate getting together with the delegation, and something that I proposed to the county council and to our Baltimore County delegation is for all of us to, instead of making the school infrastructure a political football, instead let's all just join together, Republicans and Democrats, and ask the governor and ask the comptroller, one Republican, one Democrat, to try to fast forward some of this forward funding the county's putting out. We're putting out $230 million in the next fiscal year collectively. I hope we all can work together to see if we can get some of that back to the county in a more expedited fashion, because this is about our kids, and I think we're all 100% on board to try to fix this problem as soon as we can, but I'd propose that to the council and to the delegation. Let's all write a nice letter and say, hey, let's forward fund some of the state money quicker back to us so we can get these schools completed even in a more expedited fashion.
Councilman Quirk, I am 100% in favor of working together as much as we possibly can.
Okay. Thank you. Appreciate you coming in. All righty. Our next speaker is Mr. Frank Durkee. And after Mr. Durkee, we have Lynn Jones, followed by Wendy McIver, followed by Eric Vanderbeem, and followed by Kristen Berger. And good afternoon, Mr. Durkee. Appreciate you coming in.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the County Council. My name is Frank Durkee. I live at 1741 Moncton Road, better known as Ground Zero, with all this tubing and unruliness. I found it ironic that you all are talking about a bill about unruly social gatherings. We have that every Saturday and Sunday in Moncton, and I'm here to support Councilman Catch's bill. We have parking signs, but they're no deterrent. The parking signs are pulled out of the ground, thrown up underneath my trees. They park underneath the no parking signs. When I point to them, they just smile and walk up the street. The $130 ticket is going to be a deterrent, in my opinion. The tow-away signs are there now, but nobody's being towed, so there's no deterrent for not parking there. You put the signs up, you put these $130 fine up on those signs, and I think the county police will then have something to work with. Thank you.
Great. Thank you, Mr. Durkee.
Any questions?
Questions, comments?
Thank you.
One quick comment. Mr. Durkee, please tell your boys I said hello. They'll remember me.
Okay, thank you.
We all wrestled together.
I was just going to ask some good old wrestling days.
Yep.
Here we go. Great. Thank you, Mr. Durkee. Our next speaker, Lynn Jones, followed by Wendy McIver. And good afternoon, Ms. Jones. Sure, you can give it right to me. Okay. Here we go. Yeah, sure. Thank you for coming in.
Yes, hi, I'm Lynn Jones, and I'm president of the Sparks Glencoe Community Planning Council. And I'd just like to summarize this letter that's being passed out. Sparks Glencoe is an organization that seeks to preserve and protect the rich natural environment of the North County. Parking along the Moncton Road has been a chronic problem for years. We feel one problem is the overuse of the Gunpowder River by people who abuse this natural resource. The parking situation on this stretch of the road is hazardous to motorists, pedestrian inner tubers, and bicyclists. The illegal parkers accept their parking tickets as the cost of using the river. We know that the various law enforcement agencies are also frustrated with this situation. Bill 6717 is a strong step in making their jobs easier by reducing overuse, thereby harmonizing this wonderful resource with and for responsible users. I've taken photographs of Moncton Road between York and Shepherd Roads. I'll just go over this very quickly and then I'll let you guys have it. On the front, it's basically a map. It's 3.25 miles long. There are little dots that explain which area inside, which photo corresponds with which area on the map. Basically, what I was showing is it's a little country winding road with practically no shoulders anywhere. Almost the entire length has no shoulders. There are a couple exceptions. There's the fire department parking lot, which is illegal for people to trespass and park on. And there's one other lot that is private property, which is illegal to park on. As you get closer to the river, there are paved shoulders. Part of that area is allowable for parking. There's probably maybe about 70 spaces for cars. There's also at the train station maybe 8 spaces for cars. So about 80 cars can legally park in that area, but that's about it. We're talking of over 2,000 people on the weekend days coming. It's very dangerous there. There's caution pedestrian signs that have been hit with the cars, knocked off, they're missing. It's just a huge accident waiting to happen. So we totally support this bill, and we've been working on this as a group with the community members for at least a half a dozen years, and we would love to see this thing fixed. So thank you.
Great, thank you. Our next speaker, Wendy McIver, followed by Eric Vandenbeek. Good afternoon, Ms. McIver.
Good afternoon. My name is Wendy McIver. I live about a mile from the trail. I have lived there. We've been tubing on the trail, or used to tube on the trail, my family, since 1980. At that time, it was families who tubed down the river. My husband worked for a company who had big, big trucks, and he used to actually get truck tubes, and you could put the whole family in one tube. And, of course, there were no tubes for rent. There were no buses to take you here and there. You had to plan to have a car at one end, a car at another end, and all that. But it was a lovely way to spend a hot July or August afternoon. In the ensuing years, it has escalated. When the trail came in, the hike-bike trail, that, of course, introduced the water to other people. Then we had the people that rented tubes, and for a while they even transported you. And that's when it just mushroomed into a traveling fraternity party. There is all kinds of alcoholic beverages. There are unmentionable things happening on the property, bordering the river. What they don't realize, I guess, that these are people's front lawns. And they're doing all kinds of things, leaving trash all over. And as Mr. Catch so nicely said, he thought it would be nice if the people parked in my church parking lot.
I do belong to Moncton Methodist Church. We have a lovely parking lot, but we do not want those activities going on in our church property. So we have posted it, and I usually have to run them off when I'm in Sunday school. It's become a huge problem. It's a terrible safety problem. It's a miracle that no one has been killed because people just use it. They think they're on a trail in the middle of the woods instead of a state road. And there's just too many people, not enough parking, and it's a mess. We need to do something. I support Mr. Koch's bill. Please, let us try to do something.
Mr. Chairman.
Councilman Couch.
Wendy, why don't you give up your job with Lee and you could make this your full-time job?
What?
Monitoring the
Running
parking.
people out of my church parking lot.
Good idea.
Oh, absolutely.
Thank you. Thank you for coming in. Our next speaker is Mr. Eric Vandenbeem, followed by Kirsten Berger. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon. I think most of you know me through my work with the Rec Council, but I also happen to live right between the river and the Bike and Hike Trail. So while Mr. Durkee lives on the south side of the trail, or the river at Moncton Road, I live just on the north side. He didn't mention that he picks up hundreds of beer cans every summer. I do the same on my side, as well as kicking people off my lawn because they decided to picnic there. I suspect that a great number of the people who are parking illegally are also the ones who consider this a great carnival-like atmosphere, a fraternity party kind of thing. Loud and abusive language and trash all over the place. And besides being a dangerous situation, it's most of the houses in that area are either on the National Historic Register or the Baltimore County Historic Register. And to have that area look like a carnival on weekends in the summertime is just not appropriate. While I think that Mr. Koch's thought about opening up the church parking lot to parkers would be a solution, I think this would just make the situation that we all endure even worse. So, thank you for your time.
Thank you. Thank you for coming in. And our last speaker on Bill 67-17 is Kirsten Berger. And good afternoon, Kirsten. Thank you all for coming. Thank you for your patience. It's been a long work
Thanks
session.
for having us. I'm Kirsten Berger. I'm here just to pile on to the previous speakers, and I was thinking that there have been 4 presidents of Sparks Glencoe after me, and this was a big issue that I was working on when I was the president of Sparks Glencoe. And we had state agencies and county agencies working together to solve this problem. It seems that enforcement comes and goes. We have not tried what Wade Catch has proposed, and I think it's a worthy step to try to limit parking. The trail is many miles long. It goes from Cockeysville all the way up to Pennsylvania. People can find other places to access the trail besides Moncton, so I applaud the effort. Thank you.
Great. Thank you, Ms. Berger. Appreciate you coming in.
Mr. Chairman.
Councilman Koch.
Yeah, I just want to, it's pretty obvious from the testimony, this has been a very frustrating situation for many, many years. And I just hope passage of this bill will go a long way to resolve this. And I thank everybody for attending and testifying. It's very important that you were here. Thank you.
Great. Thank you, Councilman. All right, and our last order of business today, if the council could turn to page 27, Resolution 99-17. I did want to first thank all the council members for signing on as co-sponsors. Resolution 99-17 requests the Baltimore County Department of Health, in collaboration with Public Safety as well as other county agencies it deems appropriate, to review county laws, regulations, and policies relating to the opioid crisis in Baltimore County, and to make recommendations on the need for additional legislative action by the County Council to combat this ever-increasing opioid crisis, as well as look at other municipalities, look at other jurisdictions, see if there's things that we're not doing that we could be doing, learn from each other to continue to combat this epidemic. And I did want to credit the county executive and the governor both of them for their leadership on this issue. There has been a lot already done on this issue by the county and by the state. And so this is just a recognition that we've made progress, but it's also recognition that this is a real problem. And I know many times Councilman Crandall has mentioned this. We've had many conversations with Dr. Branch. I do want to recognize Pete Kriskumis from my office is here today. We had a town hall meeting recently in Arbutus on the opioid crisis, and we had our major, McCullough was there, and we had our new captain there, and we had about 150 citizens come out. This is clearly a huge issue, and we definitely heard from the people loud and clear that they'd like us to do even more to combat this issue. And so we are looking at a couple amendments. I know a couple council members had a couple friendly amendments they were going to put on, including a time duration we'd like to have this completed by. But we do look forward to the study and the task force. Any council members have any questions or comments on this? Councilman Crandall?
Sure. Thanks, Mr. Chair. And I do appreciate the acknowledgement. As I've said before, this is an all-hands-on-deck issue. This is not a partisan thing. This is affecting all of our districts. It's affecting poor people. It's affecting rich people. And it doesn't matter where you live, and it doesn't matter what political party you're from. I just read a statistic that 70% of the people that get access to opioids get it through family or friend. And it clearly shows that we, as a society, do not have a handle on the answers yet. But to your point, Mr. Chair, we need to know that in Baltimore County that not only is the council legislatively doing all that we need to do, but the county is also using best practices that other jurisdictions have found. And I'm sorry that Delegate West had to leave, because a lot of the things that we've discovered in working on this issue are really things that the General Assembly and state regulatory agencies should be working on. But again, on a local level, what can we be doing more and better to help mitigate what is really the public health crisis of I think, of our generation? I don't think I'm overstating that. There is a cost to this crisis. There is a cost to families, just in pure anguish. There's a financial cost to families. There's a financial cost to employers. There's a cost to neighborhoods who all of a sudden are now home to a drug treatment center, and they're dealing with sometimes increased crime. They're dealing with increased litter in their neighborhoods and other nuisances. So there's a cost to neighborhoods here. I've had people in my district say if the state can't get a handle on better regulating the behavior of the patients after they leave the clinic, then we're going to have to move. And that's a very scary thing to hear when we're doing everything that we can to keep Baltimore County a great place to live and work. And of course, associated with those drug treatment centers is the increased pressure on law enforcement resources, because law enforcement are having to spend more resources inside of these neighborhoods on a daily basis. So I'm not quite sure of the mechanism yet, but something that we've discussed is perhaps a letter to the General Assembly to look into the regulatory environment of these drug treatment centers. I asked Dr. Branch not too long ago about the efficacy of methadone treatment, and he said that methadone treatment done well really works. I am seeing some things in the drug treatment centers in our district that indicate to me that they are not being administered very well, and that the state regulatory agencies really need to take a look at how these treatments are administered and how people are counseled. There is a financial incentive to keep a patient on methadone. A methadone patient is worth over $100,000 a year to a treatment center. There are some people that don't get off of methadone. They stay on it for the rest of their lives. So it's again a public health crisis that we need to face up to. And I think, as I said, it's all hands on deck from our federal representatives to our state representatives and governor, to our county executive, to the county council. So, thank you.
Thank you, Councilman. Any other questions or comments from the county council on Resolution 99-17? Well, I did want to thank everybody for coming out today, and I wish you all a very safe drive home. So work session is adjourned.